For our radio news broadcast, we chose 5 top stories which were relevant to our local area of Grimsby. These stories were Channel 4's new programme Skint coming to Grimsby, a mystery attacker who left a man with serious head injuries on a Grimsby street, and a serious collision which occurred, a story on how Border Forces seized almost 10 million cigarettes, a story on how Grimsby Town, and a Grimsby man which featured on Strictly Come Dancing. We have represented people in the stories we have covered in the sense that our stories generally relate to a younger audience of 15 to 28, and therefore our stories represent young people. They represent young people in the sense that a younger audience are more likely to be interested in watching a programme such as Skint because the show focuses on the youth of Grimsby, and therefore it is relevant to put as our headlining story. The man who was seriously injured on a Grimsby street was in his early 20s, and therefore this story will relate to a younger audience. Also, stories such as a serious collision will relate to a younger audience, as most of our audience will be drivers, and therefore will be interested in such stories. We decided to choose Skint as our main headlining story, as we felt like this would develop a strong opinions due to the fact it is set in Grimsby, and hence it is in close proximity, and therefore, in terms of Galtung and Rouge's news values, it will develop a strong opinion from the people we have interviewed in our Vox Pops. By doing this, we have represented the audience to look like strong, opinionated people. With our first and second news story, Channel 4's programme Skint and a man who was brutally attacked on a Grimsby street, we have represented the town of Grimsby in a predominantly negative light. This is confirmed by the use of Vox Pops, which means interviewing the public from around an area. The people we have interviewed from our Vox Pops also agreed that Skint represented the town in a negative light, which they thought was unfair. However, with our last news story, we have used a positive representation of Grimsby, as the fact a Grimsby man is on Strictly Come Dancing is an achievement for the town, and therefore we have included a good mix of both positive and negative representations of Grimsby. We did not use stereotypes specifically in our radio news broadcast, as we interviewed both females and males in Grimsby Town Centre. However, most of the people we asked seemed to be of middle class, and therefore we may have had a wider opinion if we ventured into areas that were seen as lower class, along with areas that were seen as higher class. We positioned the audience in a way in which we was not forcing a specific answer. For our Vox Pops, we used the question, "What do you think of Skint?" This is quite an open question which could accumulate any kind of response, positive or negative. This compares to a question that aims to force a specific answer. For example, if we would have used a question such as, "Do you think the programme Skint is a bad representation of Grimsby?" then people would have most likely agreed with that it is a bad representation. We didn't use editing in a way that would affect the way our audience was represented, as everyone that we interviewed we included in our radio news broadcast and nothing was really edited out or in.